Learn how to execute code repeatedly at fixed time intervals. The example in this lesson is a digital clock that updates every second. Instead of the page staying static, it asks the computer for the current time every 1000 milliseconds and display it. As you can see how the timing is working on the screen. So this is the digital clock that we are going to be building in this example. Here is my boilerplate code, and let's go over it together in order to achieve the sample of the digital display clock. So in my HTML, I really don't have anything much other than this H2, which corresponds to the topic, and as well as a P tag, which corresponds to what we have here as the text. Aside from that, then I have a code output sections with an ID of demo, which correspond to this space where the output of what we are going to be building is going to be displaying. So aside from that, we don't have any other thing in the HTML section. So let's move inside the script part of our code. As you can see, I'm already inside the script part, and I have just 3 steps that needs to be followed in order to achieve this example. Number 1, we need to define the target function. We need to now make the timer and then set the execution of the action of that timer itself. Now, I want to give a simple analogy before we start writing the actual code, that if set timeout is like a kitchen timer that rings once, now set interval is a heartbeat. It tells JavaScript to keep performing an action over and over again. So we are basically talking about 2 different methods. The first one is set timeout, and the second one is set interval. So at interval, the code will keep repeating over and over again. But in between each running of the code, there's going to be a specific amount of time that will be applied to it before it runs and run over again. So now let's go ahead and make the code itself. So the first thing is to define the target function. But before we do that, I want to make a call to the function that we are going to make first, or we can as well make the function first and then make a call to it later. So whichever way, let's make a call using the set interval, which is the method we want to use. Set interval. So this is the method itself. And inside this method, we want to add 2 things. The number 1 thing is the function that we want to execute, and the second thing is the timer, which is going to be 1000 milliseconds, which corresponds to 1 second for the digital clock to be working. So I will call the function, I can call it anything. I can call it my timer function, or my timer function. And then I will add time for 1000 milliseconds, which is equivalent to 1 second. Then I can then go ahead now and make that function itself. Function my timer function. So I don't have any parameters that I want to pass in, so I'm not going to pass anything inside this opening and closed parentheses. So instead, I'll move inside the function, and the first thing I want to do is that I want to find a way to get the current time and date. And how do I do that in JavaScript? I can easily do that with the date object. So let me assign it to something. Let me say let date equals to new date object. So now the new date object is going to fetch the current date and time. Now that I have this now, then I can then output the value on the screen. Get element by ID demo dot inner HTML equals to what? Our date dot get hours. I want to get hours from that date itself. So this is another method. It's a colon. Now this will get me the hour. Now if you look at my screen, you should be able to see it. it's displayed now, and it disappeared because I moved to the second line. If I moved back to that first line, you should see this. Now, this is what I'm talking about. You can see. So this is the first one. Now, I can then go ahead and add minutes. Date dot the same way dot get minutes. And this way, this will also get me the minutes. And finally, I want to get seconds. So I can do date dot get seconds. And if you look at my screen, now you can see we have the hour, which is correct, but there's something that is not showing, the minutes and the second. So let's find out why these two are not showing. I'll first refresh. If nothing is showing, then I can inspect to find out the issue inside my console. There's no issue actually. Okay. Actually, there is no issue. So what could be the problem? Let me put everything. Okay. Yeah, this should work. Yes. I'm omitting this concatenation at the back of each of them was the reason why it wasn't working before. And now look at my screen. You can see 40, 41, 42, 43. Now we have a digital timer on the screen. Now, a question that you might want to ask is that, does the time update automatically? Well, the time does not update automatically. The time only updates because we are manually overwriting the HTML every second, which is what we are doing here. If we set the interval now to 10,000, you will see how long it will take before it ticks a second. Now, let's wait. It's not even displaying anything. That's 10,000 seconds. Now, let me see why it's not displaying anything. Okay, it's not displaying. But now you will see that this part will take a long time to complete. So it will take a longer time compared to when we add 1 second. Now it will wait for 10 seconds before it will start adding up. So that is the difference. So the longer the timer, then the longer the display of the second. So I will revert this back to the 1000 milliseconds, which is equivalent to 1 second that we were using before in our code. So this example is just like an illustration of a coach with a whistle. Every time the coach blows the whistle, every second, the player does 1 lap, and they don't stop until the practice is over. Let's say they are doing it in a training. Anytime the coach blows a whistle, they take a lap, and that is how they will continue to repeat it over and over until the practice is over. Looking at this part of our code, set interval, my timer function, and a timer of 1000 milliseconds, we aren't just waiting once. We are setting a reading, and that's because we use 1000 milliseconds. So every single second, our function, which is what we have here, which is this timer function, runs every single second, which therefore creates this live clock that you can see. In situations where you want a super precise, or you want the clock to update faster, you could lower the number that we have here to like 100. If I remove 10 now and lower it to 100, let's see what happens. Now you can see the speed at which the second is now counting. So interval turn static web pages into living application by allowing code to run autonomously in the background.